That's what we've got to be careful of. And this voice is a big distraction for Albo and the team that they can throw out there, get the inner city mob to look on that and go, yeah, I'll vote for you, Albo, next time because you're doing good. But he's going to destroy the economy because he has no plan to keep it going.
Moving on from that, we'll now go into our wonderful friend Albo. I saw Shaq is doing a Shaq, for those who don't know Shaq, he's an NBA player, Shaquille O'Neale, who was a star in the 90s and early 2000s. He recently visited Australia, and Albo is now using him to sell his Indigenous voice. So, I mean, an American athlete, where he used being a political voice or an Indigenous voice, what's the go with that?
Yeah, so I don't know. And even members that I know in the Labor Party are turning, and when we've spoken about it, have gone, man, this was a bad mistake, right? So basically what Albo has done is he's shown what this voice is all about. So this voice is about creating another ATSIC. It's about enshrining a racial divide in this country. We've seen it in South Africa. You know, the apartheid era, okay, got squashed, that was bad. But now with the ANU, the rise, where you've got to have a black person on your board purely and simply to survive, and it's mandated, it swung the other way. So this is what we're going to start seeing here. And same in New Zealand, you've got to have Maori representation. Now, that doesn't create equality of anyone, and it doesn't create a harmonious business and all that sort of stuff when you've got freeloaders just sitting on your company boards or your school boards or, you know, whatever it is, because they'll be everywhere. Now, Albo using Shaq just basically, because Shaq's not Indigenous anywhere. He's a multi-millionaire who makes all his money from gambling, right? He made a lot during his sports days, but he's made a lot more by endorsing, you know, gambling products and supporting gambling businesses. And the only thing that Shaq's got in common with the Indigenous people is the color of his skin. So it has to be a race or an ethnic divide that Albo is trying to create. And to be very, very careful of this. The Aboriginal people that I talk to up in the Northern Territory, in North Queensland, the people that work for me, half of them don't even understand what the voice is. They all go, it's that stupid bloody white man thing down in Canberra. And it could do way more harm for the Indigenous communities than good. And it's always the left that say we're going to help and then destroy. So have a look in the Northern Territory where they've brought alcohol back into the communities, right? The communities didn't want 80% to 85% or something of all communities didn't want alcohol brought back in. But the government in the Northern Territory just went, no, we're bringing it back in because they need the revenue from alcohol sales, right? And it's the guys that we're dealing with up there that do a lot in the what do you call it? Of just funeral home businesses. They are going mad at the moment. They've seen a 30 to 35% increase in Aboriginal deaths in the community. So their businesses are booming. Thank you for bringing the alcohol back. But the bad thing about that is there's the same increase, if not more increase, of women and children that are being bashed and beaten and all that going to hospital. Right. So there's a bad side. So be very careful that, you know, the good intention that they're trying to do from a white man in Canberra perspective is not going to solve the problems. The other problem we've got with this voice is whose voice are they talking about? Because there's over 3,500 different Aboriginal communities, Aboriginal Torres Strait Island communities in this country, 3,200 different languages. Most of them can't even stay in the same room with each other, were then trying to kill each other. So how are you going to get a unified body? It is absolutely the thing. So when we're flying people around in the Northern Territory, and I'm talking to some of the pilots up there at it, they can't have two people from different communities on the same plane because they create havoc. You know, it's a danger to do because the tribes don't get along. Now, this is not everyone and all that sort of stuff. I'm only looking at it from their experiences and the people that I talk to. But, you know, this is really bad. When you bring it from, you know, a 198th caste perspective from a white man in Canberra to try and solve something in the community, this race baiting thing is just an absolute joke, and it'll create a lot of corruption. ATSIC was one of the most corrupt organisations that the money never ever got to the people, and we don't want to see that happen again.
So what benefit do they actually get by destroying Aboriginal communities, or are they not intentionally trying to do it, but then it's just organically creating that conflict?
Yeah, so it's all about appeasing this inner city white majority, or the half caste that are now lawyers and all that sort of stuff, 198th caste that are all lawyers and do-gooders, about creating a guilt-free society for themselves, right? So it's the same with climate change. It's the same like climate net zero. It's the same with any of these social justice type things. It's all driven by the inner city elites who have a guilt complex that are then trying to make amends for something else without knowing why and how to do it. Right now, how do you solve the appalling conditions in Aboriginal communities? That's a tough one to try and solve, and it's really tough to try and solve. Now, allowing them to make more decisions themselves rather than these Aboriginal land councils be a good start, and stop dangling money. So we know money doesn't work in a lot of these cases, because have a look at all the money that's been thrown at climate change. Climate hasn't changed. Have a look at all the money that's been thrown at the Aboriginal communities over the years, especially through royalties. Rio Tinto, I forget which community or communities up in the Kimberley, have had something like $800 or $900 million. Where's it all gone? Because the communities are no better. We know that all these social warrior transgender thing that's had a lot of money hasn't changed anything there, and our social equality hasn't changed. So money's not the problem. You know, the problem is the idiots that are driving the politics. So that's what we've got to be careful of. And this voice is a big distraction for Albo and the team that they can throw out there, get the inner city mob to look on that and go, yeah, I'll vote for you, Albo, next time because you're doing good, but he's going to destroy the economy because he has no plan to keep it going. Now, did the coalition have a plan? Not at all. Right? But, you know, at least it wasn't going to be a destructive influence. So that's what we're going to be careful of with something like The Voice.
Yeah. So yeah, I find it interesting. Deb asks a question on what is the basis of the conflict between the Aboriginal communities?
4,000 years of history. A lot of it is, from what I understand, is a lot of it is inbred hatred that has to be worked out. You know, from millions, no, not millions, but you know, tens of years. Some of it is they're just different people, and they just don't like each other. And that sort of stuff. The people the Aboriginals that live in Southern Australia are totally different to those that live in the North. Those that live on the East Coast are totally different to those that live on the West Coast and everywhere in between. There's more difference between them all than there is similarities. And it's quite fascinating. The way they tell stories, even though it's a big storytelling culture, but the stories are different. you know, about how land was come about, and, you know, serpent time and all that sort of stuff. Well, that's just one group. Another group have a different story around that as well. So a lot of it's just culture, inbred culture. Yeah, it's the same with the indigenous tribes in North America. A lot of them don't get along either, you know, because it's just cultural. A lot of the stories that are being told, you know, he stole your grandmother, and you know, so we've got to go get him, that type of stuff. So